Okay, let's correct some BS and nonsense. Now, I made a video yesterday talking about a guy over at Petapixel that wrote a brilliant and intelligent article. He's an Australian photographer. See, people are so paranoid that even some of these idiots thought that I wrote this article. You can find the guy's Google page. He's an Australian photographer. He takes some really neat model shots. I haven't been to Australia. I think his name is Sator. Anyway, it's over in Petapixel called Why Sony Full Frame Pro Mirrorless Was a Fatal Mistake. He gives a lot of logical, and I made this video on this exact same topic, and here's me from 2 months ago. I made 2 videos about this topic, talking about the mount failure for full frame Sony, and man, it got a lot of butthurt hate from Sony fanboys. Look at all those downvotes. Well, I don't give a damn about that. I'm only interested in the facts and the truth. Sony is an electronics company, by the way. They're not a camera company. So I made the two videos February the 5th, 2016, so a couple months ago. So there's a guy that wrote an article, it's the same guy that wrote this over on a Fuji board, and I made a video 5 days ago talking about this topic. Anyway, yesterday this guy named Sator, whatever his real name is, wrote this, and he shows you that, look, the Sony is not smaller. Look, you got this tiny little camera, and you have this huge camera over here, but ultimately, let's take a look at it. You see that huge flange on that 85mm G Master? Oh, it's huge. And so I knew yesterday, when I made the video yesterday, that the people at Sony would their butts would be on fire. They would be so butthurt. So over on Alpha Rumors, they said, debunking Sator's article. But this article is full of a lot of lies and nonsense. And I'm going to tell you why they're full of lies and nonsense. Why they are smoking crack. Okay, now here are some pictures that they show of various things saying, oh, look, it's not that really big. Why, are you saying that his pictures are not factual? They're both factual. But here's where the Alpha Rumors really screws up. Okay? Here's one of the pictures on Alpha Rumors to prove their point that Sony isn't that big. Here they show the Sony with versus a Fuji X Pro 2. The Fuji X Pro 2, by the way, and I own the Fuji X Pro 2, is a big, fat, thick camera relative to the Fuji X-T1. Here they show it with a 14mm 2.8 lens, and over here is a 16mm 2.8. Now, admittedly, the 16mm, and I own both of those lenses, by the way, is about the same size as the 14mm. And they say, look, here's a Sony over here with the 16mm 2.8, and here's the Fuji with the 14. Well, obviously that's bigger, huh? Well, let's take a look at 2 things here, why don't we? This is a 2.8 lens, 16mm on this Sony, right? Yeah, it's kind of fast, but not really. Let's take a look. Now here is the X Pro 2 versus the X-T1. If you actually just compare the actual body instead of the viewfinder, the X-T1 is a thinner camera. Yeah, but that still doesn't compensate for the fact this is a bigger lens. Well, this is a 14-2.8. Okay. So now let's do a real comparison, and let's see where Sony Alpha Rumors is a lying dog. 16mm 2.8. Well, let's instead use the Fuji X-T1 with the 16mm. Oh, it's an f1.4. Yeah, I own that lens. That's actually, by the way, Fuji's best lens that they make. f1.4. You slap that on a Fuji X-T1, you have a lighter weight package, you have a smaller package than this. So this is blown out of the water. They're trying to compare a thicker Fuji camera with the 14mm compared to the 16mm 2.8. Well, I'll tell you what, I will just replace this X Pro 2 and the 14mm and put instead a thinner Fuji X-T1 with the 16mm. So now we'll have a 16mm 2.8 versus a 16mm f1.4. So total BS on that. Total nonsense. In this article from Alpha Rumors, it says, but Sator, the guy that wrote the article for Petapixel, and I support the guy that wrote the article for Petapixel, he's right in everything he says. He says here Sater is making a mistake. He assumes that the FE lenses have to be big because of the law of physics. Well, they do. They do. Please, Sater, give us the physics formula that says that. How about this? I will quote you Zeiss, I will quote you Sigma, and I will quote you the head of Fuji on this. Here's a Fuji guy. First of all, our XF mounts are not compatible with IBIS, blah, 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 blah. To secure that amount of light in any position, the diameter of the mount must cover the wider circle considering the margin for sensor movement. In camera sensor stabilization, camera, the IBIS, the in-body image stabilization, excuse me. To cover the larger image circle, not only must the mount size be bigger, but the lens size also must be bigger. That's from the Fuji rep, and that's a fact. I don't care who says it. It's a fact. That's pure science, physics, and optics. So that's where the Alpha Rumor articles is BS. Let's quote Zeiss. The short flange distance on the Sony, a full-frame mount, between the sensor and the rear element is an engineering challenge for ultra-wide lenses. You see, this is the reason why Sony has not come up with any wide-angle zoom lenses for their full-frame mount. It's because it's a screw-up. You see, the title of this article is accurate. No matter what you think of Sony or Fuji, or the guy that wrote this article, why full-frame Pro mirrorless from Sony was a mistake. And it's correct, it's a mistake. It should have been built on the other platform, which was Sony's other platform, which has, I recall what the exact size on the mount, the exact size on the mount, yeah, on the A mount is 49.7 millimeters, on the Fuji is 44, and the Sony E mount is 46.1. Let's quote Sigma. Sigma CEO says the diameter of that Sony mount is very small and it makes it very difficult to design high-quality full-frame lenses. It almost looks like the Sony mount, full-frame mount, like on the A7R and R2, was designed for APS-C more than it was designed for full-frame. There you go. You got the head of Fuji, you got Zeiss, and you got Sigma saying that the mount on the Sony is too damn small. That, folks, is why these damn lenses on this tiny little... We can all admit the Sony body is tiny. Okay? There's no denying it. It's a tiny, cute little body. This is Sony's Wonder Box. But to compensate for that full-frame sensor with in-body image stabilization, you have to put a huge-ass honking lens on there. You see this little flange at the bottom of the lens? They have to stick in optics and a spacer in there to allow for the damn coverage. I mean, look at this. Look at this, for God's sakes. Here's the 85 millimeter. Look at that. This is a huge-ass Canon body compared to the Sony. The Sony is a tiny little body. It's like you can rob it from one, but you got to put it somewhere else. You know? It's kind of like someone standing in a well and they're bailing themselves out. Well, where the hell is the water going to go? Where the hell is it going to go? Well, you could drink it, I guess, but the water is still going to be there. You can chop off all of this on the camera and make a tiny little camera, but you're not going to compensate for the damn physics, optics, and math. This is a huge-ass lens. Both of these are 85 millimeter. Except for the fact that the Canon is faster. This is an f1.2 and this is an f1.4. So not only is the Canon lens smaller, and the whole thing on the body is smaller, it's also a faster lens. Oh, gee, that makes sense. Let's look at another foobar in the Alpha Rumors article, because these people are butthurt. There's nobody gets butthurt faster than Sony people. The new 85, now this is some real nonsense. I mean, this is some real garbage right here. The article says, the new 85 millimeter G-Master lens is made for ultimate quality. Well, they're all made for ultimate quality. And by the way, there are a lot of reports of failed G-Masters. There's a design flaw in the grease for the focusing mechanism is seeping in and it's coating the interior elements. So there's a huge design flaw in the G-Masters. You can read about it. Go Google it. I don't give a damn. It's a future-proof lens made for 100 megapixel full frames. Well, that's total BS and speculation. There's nothing said anywhere. I mean, what fanny did you pull that out of? And to achieve such a quality, you have to make the lenses bigger. Well, that's total BS. I mean, there is no truth in that entire two-sentence stream from the Alpha Rumors article. Not one shred of truth in it. None. Let's take a look at some other nonsense. Trust me, I got more. This is their other proof from the Sony Alpha's rebuttal. It's meant to be a rebuttal to this Petapixel article. They show another picture, which is this. Here's a fair comparison. Let's look at the Zeiss 35mm f2.8 on the Sony compared to on the Fuji X Pro 2, the 18mm. Well, apples and oranges there, baby. Now he's going to compare a 35mm to the 18mm. You know what? You know what's the exact same size as this Zeiss 35 f2.8? A thinner Fuji XT1 with a 35mm f1.4. Yeah. Oh, didn't they mention that? Okay, so let's keep the Sony over here on the same size, the same side. Let's replace it with the Fuji XT1 and a 35mm f1.4. So now you have two cameras that are the same size roughly, but instead of over here you got a 35.28, over here you got a 35.14. Oh, they didn't mention that, did they? I wonder why. See, people that are desperate fanboys with their head in the sand will pull anything out of anywhere to prove their point. The XT1 is the same size, if not a hair smaller, with a much faster 35mm lens. Jeez, didn't mention that, did they? Let's take a look at another picture. Now here's where they really screw the pooch. Now they're going to compare the Sony with the Luxia 21mm f2.8 with this huge honking D810. I've got two D810s. I know that's a huge ass camera. Look at that little tiny Sony. Look at that huge Nikon D810. Yeah, I see that. Look, the Nikon D810. Now both of these, this is with a Milvus 21mm. Okay? You know what? Let's do that. Let's keep this here, and let's keep the Sony here. The only thing I'm going to do is swap this lens off. Okay, I'm going to keep the Sony with the 21mm f2.8. I'm going to keep the Nikon D810, except I'm going to slap a 20mm f2.8 D-series autofocus on it. You know what happens then? Then this gigantic Nikon D810 with the 20mm f2.8 is this much smaller than the damn little Sony. Fail! You failed! You failed! This is how people trick you. Anybody that doesn't have many brain, like, yeah, they're right, that article's right, I see the picture right there. Yeah, but you're not really seeing it. Because these people are only showing you what they want to show you. Kind of reminds me of a religion. It's like, no one paid attention behind that guy behind the curtains there. In The Wizard of Oz, you know, the person that's pulling the levers and only showing you what they want you to see. Well, I'm smarter than these guys because I've used more lenses than God. I'll slap a 20mm 2.8 lens on it. It'll be the same speed as this 20mm. Be a better lens too, actually, by the way. And even on this honking Nikon D810 with that 20mm 2.8 D-series autofocus, it'll be a smaller package in height than that damn Sony will be. Damn! You're nailed. I have debunked your debunk. This is supposed to be a debunk to the article on Petapixel, this article. So I'm going to write a debunk to it. Well, great. You know what? I just debunked your debunk. You're liars. You told a little bit of the truth, but you sprinkled it with a gigantic pile of lies. So there. These pictures don't lie. The pictures over here don't lie either, except the problem is they're making selective picture comparisons. They're lying to you. I just got done showing you they use a thicker Fuji camera with a 14mm. You want to compare 16mm? I'll compare 16mm with you, boy. I'll throw a f1.4 16mm Fuji on there. You've got a little pancake 16mm 2.8 on that Sony. Which would you rather have, the 16mm f1.4 or the 16mm 2.8 on this overheating bread burner? Oh, excuse me, I meant camera. I kept forgetting that it's not actually like a heating pad and then it overheats all the time and that you need to buy a special cooling system so it can record more than 21 minutes of video. Not that I really care about video. So this is liars. This is debunking the debunk. Fail. Fail on you. Like it, don't like it, I don't care. It's still the truth and you've been disproven. Bye.